Next up, we have one of our favorite Dinobots, even though he's a little bit on the quiet side during the cartoon. We have Rayle, who was the voice of Snarl.
Be not quiet, my writers were quiet.
Next up, we have the voice of Jem and Ariel, with Samantha Newark. And last but not least, McConnohie, voice of Cosmos and Trax.
That island is already inhabited.
What goes by the groove. Well, hello everyone.
I suppose you're wondering why we called this meeting.
Everybody take out a pen and paper.
There will be a test in 15 minutes.
You all did bring number 2 lead pencils, yes?
Copious erasing? Well, all right then, here we are.
Okay, see you.
Does anyone have a question?
If you don't have one, do I
Yes.
sign them? Why are we here?
Yes, you with the 5 fingers.
This was for Hal and Jack Angel. For Hal, how are we able to do Snow's voice with the growls? And for Mr. Jack Angel, I really love how you voiced many of these characters from Transformers and Voltron. How was it that you did for Astro Train's voice?
What's the question?
Sorry. I mean, how did you do for Astro Train's voice?
Well, I just read it, the lines in whatever big voice I did at the time, which I can't remember because it was 30 or 40 years ago.
You still did a good job with him.
But then they ran it through a synthesizer in order to get it like 2 voices at once simultaneously. And I don't know how they did that. That was technical stuff that was not only did I not know about, I did not care to know about.
It was still good. You did a wonderful job.
What?
I said you did a wonderful job, though.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was my job to do a good job.
In response to how I did the growl, a lot of cashews and some carobs keeps the phlegm up, and I know that's kind of gross, but you know, after you go 10 or 15 times, you get a little bit sore.
Oh,
I should
and
try that out.
you go home and gargle to see if your neck leaks.
And if it does, you take a day off.
Yeah.
Next question, behind you, Man in Stripe. Oh, sorry.
Striped man.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
For Cosmos and Trax from Michael, obviously, I think I've made it clear that I love the way you voice your characters. You all do a really good job, but Cosmos has a special place. And I'd like to hear something from Cosmos about how he feels about the fans.
How he feels about his pants?
How he feels about the fans.
How he feels about the pants the fans are wearing. I have to say I'm a little confused because I've been everywhere. I fly, you know, but I'm by myself a lot. And I have to say that being in a room here with all of you people, looking the way you look and smelling the way you smell, it's a whole new experience for me.
I'd like to thank everybody again for coming out. I was great to have one of the voice acting members at all these Botcons through the years. Mr. McConnohie, I think you remember.
Wait. All I can hear is some other
I'm sorry, sir. I was thanking y'all for coming out this time and all the times in the past. You all been able to make it. Mr. McConnohie, I know you probably remember me from a few Botcons.
Indeed.
I Samantha and Cosmos are two of my favorites. Every year people ask me for Chris Latta stories and all the memories that you've got from Transformers. But you also worked on one of my other favorite series, Visionaries. And if Hasbro wants to do a review of that, they can. But do you have any stories from the other Hasbro shows you've worked on? Because there's a lot of cast carryover. Are there other stories that you might not have heard from the other series?
Well, I'm not sure which ones you've heard. But
Yeah. Well, let's talk about visionaries.
let's talk about Visionaries. How about the time I crippled Roscoe Lee Brown? One of the consummate character actors of our time. When we were doing the show, we were all lined up on a series of mics, but we could actually see each other and read off each other's reactions and get a little better work. And we got, kind of physically into what was going on. If you had to jump, well, you kind of jumped, and if you threw something, you were throwing it. And I was, which one, Ektar? I think it was Ektar was casting a spell or throwing a gigantic artifact or something. And I hauled back, I went, bam, and punched Roscoe right in his left kidney. And Wally's looking up saying, that's not the script.
That reaction shouldn't be there.
That was not in my storyboard marginal notes. Roscoe forgave me, and I was very grateful for that. But I could just see the headlines now. Newbie actor kills veteran film.
You have to share. Sharesies.
I don't share, Willie. Ask my wife. I was going to say, Wally would never forgive you.
Sharing. Sharing!
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Test these. Sorry about that.
Yes.
All right, so to all of you, if you could voice another character on the show, who would it be?
The question was, if we were to voice another character on the show, who would it be?
Well, I'd like to be Snow White.
But Snow White. Oh, Snow White bot, yeah. Yeah.
You mean on the Transformers you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, well, I would like to voice anything that has a price tag on it.
I'll agree to that. We did all this for money. We had no idea that it would ever turn into this.
No, that was 30 years ago, folks.
And, we were lucky to be able to work with the actors we worked with because they were all world-class performers that most people wouldn't recognize on the street. In fact, to give you an example of, I was at a movie house in Sherman Oaks, and they have a wall as you go in, and on that wall are panels that they can put anything on. And this particular day, they had panels of all the animated shows you ever saw in your life. And I was with a group of friends, and I stood there and I was counting the ones I was in. There was about 20 of them. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm counting the movies I've been in." And I said, if any other actor was standing here and been in 20 movies, he'd be mobbed by people. But nobody knew who I was because I wasn't speaking.
But you were speaking in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. but you know, I work with all these wonderful actors like these people, and nobody knows who we are. Walk the streets, and, unless we're at Botcon and Botcon, nobody knows who we are, which is a blessing.
Plus there's the internet now, so it's kind of changed everything. The voice actors now have Twitter pages and Facebook pages, and the fandom has just blown up because of the internet, this crazy thing that we didn't even have back then, and kids can't even believe how we lived.
No, we had
How we
pagers.
surfed. Yeah, we had pagers. And no CDs and no MP3s. And everything was done on analog tape, 2-channel tape. And
Well, we had Welker too. When we were doing Transformers, we all were crowded into a studio at Wally Burr's, and when we weren't actually on the mic, we sat around a big table, and Frank Welker would sit there. There was a sliding glass door that opened and closed. You know, he would making an exact sound of that sliding glass door, and we would all look over to see who came in.
There's also a story about Frank one time when we were doing a show, and he was doing white noise and Wally was just going crazy trying to find where the buzz was coming from. Sending an engineer to check all the XLR connections and all that, and then he'd go back out there and Frank would start projecting that sound again, and they'd go, where in that HE double hockey sticks is that noise coming from? Frank just... Yes, well, I don't know, about everybody else, but I loved going to Wally Burr's. Even, people have said a lot of things about it, but where else could I go and spend that many hours with the creme de la creme of Hollywood and listen to the stories and watch the greatest people in the business perform on just one after another, just amazing times and amazing people.
And every one of them, with the exception of McConnohie, well, he told me, they cartooned. They would sit there at their desk and they would draw cartoons. Except Michael. Michael would sit there and look at them and think, what the hell are these guys doing?
You know how much ink you guys are wasting?
Yeah, the whole recording ensemble thing was so awesome because you were just in the mix with everybody and were playing off of everybody and sharing mics and jumping back and forth and in and out. And then when it wasn't your turn, you're in another room and you're bonding with everybody and you're paying attention to the script, so you know when you gotta jump back into the studio and get on the mic again. And it's bizarre hearing about the way the big animated films are done, and sometimes the actors are in different coasts and they never meet each other and they're doing their dialogue, to an engineer, and they didn't get to experience what we did ensemble. And I just loved it. I thought it was so awesome.
And I've had conversations with a lot of you where discussing this, the fact that when you have people within physical touching distance of each other, I mean, you have to be careful, but...
you never were.
No, I wasn't. I didn't give a rat, a toothy. But you can see what's going on with them. You can read their body language, so you can react, see the expressions on the faces. And the animators, a lot of times, would be in the control room watching, and they would get cues for the characters from watching the actors perform. And this one actor at a time in a little room with a director in his headphones is such a sterile way to work. It's possible, but it's not preferable. And I blame the man who invented the World Wide Interweb.
It's different now because now everybody has their own little studios that they do at home, and we get auditions and we do them at home. And back in the time when we were doing Transformers when it first started, we would go to audition houses and we'd be sitting in the foyers, and there'd be all these people you recognize from television and movies when you were growing up walking in, and there was always like Ronnie Shell who would come in, and he would always go, okay, I'm going to size up, this guy's my competition, and he'd sit down and talk to you so you couldn't really study your script before you got in there to do that. And, God bless him. And just a number of other people that would do things like that. And I miss those days because it was a time where we all got to see each other. Now, if we see each other, it's like, you audition, if you get the job, you go, and sometimes if it's not a video game, you get to work with other people. And if it is, you pretty much are in there by yourself doing your own stuff. But, we were there, I like to feel like at the golden era of animation in Hollywood during the 80s. And it just was such a wonderful, wonderful time. Very magical.
You all know who Gary Owens is?
Yeah.
The guy from Laugh-In? Hello, this is Gary Owens. We had an audition at a casting outfit, and all the big voice guys were there. There must have been 10 guys in the room. As Gary parked his car, we saw him walking in, and I said, when he comes in, let's all say, hello, Gary, this is you. And we did. And periodically I called him up and I said, hello, Gary, this is you. And he said, who is this? It's you!
Any of your scripts?
I do.
No.
I did too.
No.
Oh, they make the greatest kindling. I've got a nice big box in the garage filled with them too, and someday it's going to be Dear eBay will
I even have my sides from when I auditioned in Gem. And yeah, it's really fun. Like the little notes, all your little notes that you write.
Yeah, and Wally's marginal notes. I mean, you get the storyboards, which, that's the scene by scene pictorial representation of what the action is. Well, that was good for some people. Wally would take the dialogue scripts, and then he would do little artwork in the margins as to what was going on for the sort of feeling you wanted. So you see some innocent little character like Bumblebee falling off a cliff.
Wally and I had, I think, a kind of a special relationship, only in that we had both been in the service. He was a tank commander, which kind of fits the profile, in World War II. And he was the youngest tank commander they had. He had to be an officer to be a tank commander. And then when the Korean War broke out, he was called back to teach tank gunnery in Texas. And I was a little younger, and I was an officer during the Korean War, and I'd gone to Ranger School. So we had that common thread that we had been officers in the service. So there was a different kind of respect. It wasn't just director and actor, but it was a comrade in arms kind of thing. And he still beat me up a couple of times,
He wouldn't be Wally if he didn't have an opinion.
Yeah, oh God. Well, I always thought that Wally could probably do the whole show. Because first off, they synthesized almost all the voices. And so if I read in this voice, it would cut out, or whatever. I mean, some really odd thing. And Wally could have done that.
Wally's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
I have to ask, did you guys ever get a naked storyboard? And no one seems to remember this but me, but I know I was not hallucinating. There was one time when we went into the studio, we had a little rehearsal, and they passed out storyboards, and nobody had any clothes on. And it was a joke that the storyboard people had done. They'd drawn us naked. I don't know why I didn't keep it, but
man, that would have been hello eBay.
I might even have bought it from you.
Let's consider why the rest of us didn't. We were robots.
Well, they could have taken our mufflers off.
exposed your jacket.
The whole meaning to make a joyful noise.
Yes.
I've heard, Peter Cullen say it and Frank Dorkin say it as well, as far as how they own their characters and how they, taken ownership of their characters and made sure that they, as far as, the personalities and as far as their, their creed and, what their beliefs were and as far as their character is concerned. They took ownership of that because they were that invested in it. Have you found yourselves invested in your own characters as well, as far as, you wanted to make sure that this character was portrayed this way or that way? Did you take liberties as far as, your characters is concerned?
I don't know. I think when they give you the audition, you pretty much, it's kind of like trying to check spaghetti, whether it's al dente, you throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, it's ready. And for me, when I got a character, I would work very hard on trying to make sure that I could sustain and maintain the integrity of whatever it was that I put into the character to begin with. But, you have a director, and sometimes you have writers, and so you may think, well, this is the integrity of how I want to do this character, but then you may find that that's not the way they want to have that line delivered. So I feel like, I did what I could do within the circumstances of the box that I was in. And now when people ask me to do any of those characters and there's nobody going, and action, I can do whatever I want with them, yes.
Yeah. But sometimes they would say, let you read 8 times, and it's ruin your voice. And I say, this character really should do this. So now you got to do 8 more takes because the guy changed his mind. And there is a thought that runs through my head periodically that some of these people don't care if you ruin your voice and ruin your career as long as they get a product that day for their thing. And a lot of younger actors don't get that. And I tell the young guys, when I was a young guy, I did all that stuff. And the old guys said, no, I'm not going to get in there and ruin my throat. And now, I'm the old guy saying, don't go in here and ruin your throat. And the young guys, I can do it. I'm the young guy. And they do.
This may sound odd, but if the characters, specifically Transformer characters, were the ones at this panel right now, not you guys, how would they act or talk if they were in your position right now?
You want us to talk as our characters?
If they were the ones at this panel, asking all the questions. Doing, answering the questions, sorry.
They wouldn't be nearly as engaging and fun to watch.
If we were answering questions as our characters, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I would be absorbing the electrons coming out of this microphone.
Me, Grimlock, not happy. Where meat? Need meat. Oh, got some right here. Human.
I'm Jen, and these are not my holograms.
Don't you sing when you're Jen?
She sometimes sings, yes.
Her father's sitting right over there, but I was also her father.
He was.
On Jen. I was Jen's father.
Yeah, so take that, Dad.
His beautiful wife, Arlene, was my agent from the time I was 15, 16, and Jack and I, this was during the days when you go to your agency to audition for things. So I would be coming in and Jack would be leaving or vice versa, and we'd always see each other. Oh, my daughter.
Yeah. That won't hug that way.
It's very cheeky, this one.
Well, listen, there's quite a few ladies here I hugged today. Thank you all.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Hi.
All right.
Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate all your work on G1 memory. With the recent passing of Casey Kasem, I was just wondering if you had any personal stories or anecdotes concerning Casey for working with him?
I was lucky enough to work with Casey Kasem. My wife and I did Mr. and Mrs. Peter Lorre, who ran a haunted ski chalet in Scooby-Doo.
No way!
And so my wife, who was probably in her late 30s, early 40s at that time, walks up to him and goes, "Oh, Casey, I have been a fan of yours since I was a little girl." And he looks at her and he was like, "Well, I don't think you're a little girl anymore."
I worked with Casey when he did Robin at Hanna-Barbera, Batman. And I was Hawkman and Super Samurai and The Flash. So we worked together on that show a lot. But Casey was really a good guy. You know, he was a nice man, and which came through on his shows. I mean, everybody loved the guy. Always sorry that there was such a controversy in his life near his death. And who knows what the hell that was all about. But
I don't think he was aware of it.
no, probably not. But now he's taking a dirt nap.
Oh, see, Jack gets an excuse on that.
Jack in that Club Mud.
Club Mud. Oh, wow.
Hey,
take it from an angel.
We're all just penciled in, you understand? And there's a big eraser, and it just runs around bouncing off the walls, erasing people. And there's no system to it. There's not an age thing connected to it. It's just you get in the way, and you're gone, So live fast, live to the fullest. This whole thing is just a big game. Games were created to have fun in. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Change your life.
Take it from an angel.
And now you've all been touched by an angel.
We have a little place in Malibu we go on the weekends, and I would be there this weekend if I wasn't here. But right down the beach from us is where she lives, in a $25 million house with her husband, who produces shows like, Shark Tank, and
The reality stuff.
yeah, makes a lot of money. But they have a phenomenal house. My wife went there for a baby shower. She didn't believe this place. It's just the other half. It's the other half beyond us. Yeah.
Touched by a bank account.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so a few years ago, people were selling stuff from Wally Burr's collection, and I got some copies of it. And unfortunately, I don't have anything for Miss Newark, but what we have here are your Transformers audition sheets.
Oh my God!
What?
You know what's so funny? I never saw this. That is wonderful. I mean, wowzers. And it has Wally's scribble on it.
You've got Wally scribble.
I got it all over. Thank you so very much. My gosh.
Hello, eBay. It's going to be difficult, but I'll try and paint a little picture for you here. There's a little image of Cosmos on the bottom. He's a space, he's not a flying saucer, he's a rocket. And, oh my God, tracks. 20s. And he's sort of this and sort of that, sort of cool and sort of something else. How could I have been so wrong?
Rita!
he says to himself, yeah, should be coming out of that cloud any second. There you are. Got you in my sights. And we're locked on a collision course. Uh-oh, it's one of ours. Well, no big difference. It's a target. I'd be ashamed to waste the ammo. 10 seconds to collision. 9, 8, 7.
All right, I'm fortunate because up here was the original thing written by the writers. It is completely scratched out. And here is what Wally wrote. Those wacky writers. Hey, can I help it if I'm the sleekest, raciest, most dynamic thing on wheels when I transform in automotive mode? Well, you too can be a winner if you trade your bolt-bucking lemon chassis into a classic form. Now, pardon my dust while I dig out. From Wally's Little Inkwell. Hey, just because I happen to be sort of custom, sort of cool looking, can I help it? Gotta give me a friend, trade yourself in for something hot, cause baby, you are not. Bye-bye.
This is shrapnel. It says experiment with insect-like voice and speech rhythm.
Oh, nice kickback. You should take care of that, country boy. So what are you spraying them with? People repellent? Repellent. Oh, here come some visitors who don't look too friendly and play. What do you say we give them a real warm welcome with my electronic control beams? Ready? Fire!
Pipes, a highly qualified mechanic talking seriously to help an ignorant truck driver. No model.
Ignorant truck drivers.
You know, I'm sorry, that was an ignorant truck driver, yes.
Your problem is you've got the wrong gauge transforming cog. You need a Series A 630 with variable torque option for a triple changer. Otherwise, this middle mode functions won't operate. I could install this, but I believe I'm doing the job right the first time, you know what I mean, you know?
This is an absolutely incredible gift.
Thank you so very much. Half the time we never saw pictures of the Transformers or the G.I. Joe characters that we were going to do.
This is a fake.
Yeah. But thank you for bringing a lovely fake.
I have a question for Mr. Angel. I saw your interview on YouTube with John Bailey, John 3.0. He's an aspiring, or he's actually a younger voice actor doing very well. I remember in that interview you had mentioned something, a statistic about having the highest number of being in the most movies ever than any other actor in the world, or I can't remember the statistic.
There's a website called By the Numbers.
That's right.
And it calculated how much money the movies had made and who was in them. And because I was in a lot of Disney movies that generated over $100 million, in the category of $100 million movies, Frank Welker is always number one. Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise fight it out for number 2 and 3, and there was a time when I was number 4. I've since been passed by Samuel L. Jackson, who went on Howard Stern's radio show and was talking about that website. And Stern said, well, who's Wilker and Angel? He said, oh, those aren't real actors, they're voiceover guys. Yeah.
So obviously you've been talking to Michael Bay.
Samuel, I was down at Comic-Con a couple of years ago when that had just happened. And somebody mentioned that website, so I said, well, since you brought it up, and I told him what Samuel L. Jackson said, and he said, so I, right now, will challenge Mr. Jackson to meet Frank and me in any studio of his choice, and we'll see who the real actor is.
Could I get a second on the wall?
Yeah.
Hello, this is mainly for my McConnohie. Recently, I got to see on TV Pacifica and the Maltese Falcon with Peter Lorre. And you said before Cosmos, as basically the voice of Peter Lorre. Where did you, or how did you decide on Peter Lorre as an inspiration?
Okay, let's be clear. Wally didn't want Peter Lorre. You wanted a bad Peter Lorre. And believe me, I was up to the job.
Somebody wanted Peter Lorre in a session for commercials one time, and there must have been 8 people at Bell Sound, and Joni River was there as well. And every single person did their imitation of Peter Lorre, and so did Joni. So everybody had a Peter Lorre off, you know. Were you finished? Or did I? We were just getting started.
Why, it's never an interruption when it's you.
Thank you, lesser person.
He wanted a bad Peter Lorre, and actually, when I first started, he said, no, that's too real, you know, dirty it up. So it came down to something on the order of no acting days. And again, I was up to the job.
I did Peter Lorre at the Ice House once, and we were doing improv, and so I said, I'm going to do Peter Lorre. And they said, oh, from House. And I said, no, that's Hugh Lorre. Peter Lorre, who is dead. I only do dead people.
There's a law against that.
I didn't think you noticed.
Spend any time in Arkansas?
Oh! Razorbacks.
Another question.
What is the craziest thing that ever happened in the recording booth during Transformers?
The what thing?
The craziest thing that ever happened while recording Transformers.
Ooh. Well, craziest thing that ever happened for me was one time I was there, and sometimes people were listening to Wally Burr, and sometimes people were tuning him out and having their own conversations. And there was a moment when he was explaining to Peter Cullen how he wanted him to emphasize an exertion. And Peter and Frank were standing beside each other, and they were involved in a conversation. And Peter wasn't listening to anything that Wally was saying. And then Wally says, "Okay, and we're rolling." And then the whole room stopped, and I leaned over Peter's shoulder, and I went, "Ugh!" And Wally was looking down. He goes, "Okay, that's a wrap." At first, I think Peter was upset, but then he said, "Okay, we're moving on," and I think he was okay.
I got nothing crazy. It was all a wonderful pink cloud of happiness and love. It was all crazy.
Did you get in trouble with Wally for laughing? And
oh, God, I don't think there was a time I was there that I didn't get in trouble.
The only time I got in trouble with him was one time I just wasn't getting what it was he wanted. And he'd say over and over, he'd say, "No, listen." And he'd give me the line reading. And I'd do it, and he'd say, "No, you're not getting it." And they said, well, what? And pretty soon everybody is like, oh, it's Jack's turn in the barrel, you know. And so finally, in desperation, they just imitated him. And he said, well, now you're just imitating me. Now you can feel the whole room. It was palpable. And then he said, well, I guess that's okay. And from that point on, whenever anybody got in trouble and couldn't figure out what he wanted, they just do an imitation of him and he'd buy it.
He really could have done the show.
Yeah, he could. Well, he was so thorough. I mean, look, we're talking about
a show that happened 30 years ago, yeah.
But robots, you know, and he knew how each one of them felt, right? I mean, internally, he knew their personalities. He knew everything about them. He was so well versed in all the characters, even, you know, the ones that were brand new. He figured out something for them to make them different, and that's what he wanted. And I mean, he was amazing that way. He was the most thorough director I think I ever had.
I would have to, you know. And here we are 30 years later celebrating the work that we did. So, you know, I think that speaks for itself as well.
There was a time when Wally Bird directed shows in the afternoon for kids with number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Jim was number 1 for girls. Did you ever know how the Gem Show, why the Gem Show got canceled and a whole bunch of other stuff got canceled? The Gem doll, Gem was number 1. The FCC said that you could not advertise the doll in the show in which it came, from which it came. So therefore, they couldn't advertise the Gem doll in the Gem show. Otherwise, it would make the show a half-hour commercial, which left it open for Mattel to come in and advertise Barbie. So in the midst of this number 1 show, they're advertising Barbie. At Christmas time, Jim sat on the shelf and Barbies leaped off. And Hasbro looked at that and said, we are creating a vehicle for our biggest competitor to sell toys. Cancel the show. Cancel all the shows. Let's regroup and figure out what the hell we're doing. And all the shows got canceled and Marvel almost went under.
I did a show called Toxic Crusaders. And
it was typecasting.
Yeah, I was a toxic one. But at any rate, one of the things that got that show canceled is that they were selling the toys, and in the toys they had this little packet that they called Toxic Ooze. Turned out it was toxic. Duh! They had to recall the toys, and at that point they found that they were not making enough money to recall the toys and sell us the show, so it got canceled. But so if you're doing anything toxic, don't sell the toys that are toxic. Lesson number 7.
Now, like, everything's a big product placement. I mean, the time, it's completely...
Well, now everything is toxic. You realize that sugar is toxic? And the obesity problem we're having in this country is because everything is loaded with sugar
and corn fructose.
Yeah, well, there's a movie out. The only place I know in LA was playing is at a little theater in Santa Monica, down on 2nd Street. It's called Fed Up. And it deals with the industry, the sugar industry, how they're literally killing us. They're adding sugar to everything, and we're getting obese. We exercise, we do all this stuff to get healthy, and we're getting worse. The whole country is getting worse. It's really a travesty. You ought to kind of become more familiar with that because your life depends on you getting rid of the sugar in your body.
And that's the fake sugar too, like the aspartame, they're even...
Yeah, so it stays longer in your system.
Yeah, it's just awful. And you know...
So try the Toxic Ooze.
Yeah, that probably be better. They're trying to figure out what the best menu would be for kids in school for lunches. And so the people who are financing this investigation, is Coke and Pepsi and General Mills, all the people who are jamming sugar.
Well, all I can say is thank God they brought back Twinkies.
Speaking of toxic foods. All right, any other questions?
Good afternoon. First, I wanted to thank you all for being consummate professionals, for putting so much into your work.
Who's talking?
Sorry, I'm kind of invisible. But I really appreciate the work you put into it. A lot of the staff you put into it, nothing ever felt phoned in. Even as a kid, I picked up on a lot of the emotional nuances you put into your work, and that means you care about your job, and that means a lot to me as a fan and a professional. I was also curious at which point you realized what was just a job at one point for you had turned into a cultural phenomenon, and how that felt.
I didn't know until I went on Facebook and had a Facebook page, and all of a sudden I was inundated with Botcon people. You know, what do you do to add robots to my page? You know, and I realized there are millions of you. And where are the guys from England? Oh, are they gone? They were in the previous thing. Oh, there they are.
One of me.
Yeah. And I did an interview. What is your thing called?
The Moonbase 2 podcast.
Moonbase 2, yeah. But there are several others in England, right?
Yeah.
And they're all over the country. They're all over the world. And geez, this is really something. How would we have ever guessed that this would have happened? We couldn't possibly. You've done it. You know, you because you're so excited about being robots.
I have to say the same thing. I really had no idea. Last year I was invited to come to a Comic-Con, and then I ended up going to 4 or 5 of them, and then I got invited to this, and it was because of that that kind of awoke the Kraken deep down inside of me. And I had left Hollywood 20 years ago and moved to Colorado to raise a daughter and explore the digital frontier, and all of a sudden last year I'm next to people I worked with years ago, and the laughs are there, and I realized, holy moly, they don't just get the jokes, they write the jokes. I miss these people a lot, and so now I've moved back to I live in Burbank now, but I'm back in Hollywood to become part of this crazy business again.
And there's no work now.
And there's no work now. If anybody needs any sweeping, I'm only unhappy that there's no snowfall. I would gladly shovel your wall.
I started to, I guess it was the internet when I Googled Gem and the Holograms one day. Oh my God. And there were all of these websites and fan pages and this was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And then I got invited to my first convention, and then seeing over the years the people that cosplay the different characters, and the doll collectors and the animation people that know every line from every episode, and they know what color shoes one of the holograms was wearing, and I mean, it's incredible. And I've had so many awesome fan experiences, and it started initially just with fan letters coming to the agencies. I'm sure you guys got those too, fans writing, going to audition, oh, you got a fan mail, and these incredible letters from people that love the show, and now it's all social media driven, so it's just comic. So it's surreal. It's completely surreal to be here all these years.
You're all crazy, you know that.
Yeah.
What's crazy about you?
Mostly the letters I get are trying to remind me of how much I owe. and telling me that I'm related to someone that, no, never mind, I'm not going there. It was actually in the 90s. I was doing a lot of work internationally because I was supervising foreign versions of films for DreamWorks and Warner Brothers. Shrek, Mouse Hunt, Prince of Egypt, a whole lot of things. So I got a chance to work all over the world. And let me tell you, one funky little studio smells a whole lot like another one. But actors are still the best people I've ever met. And every time I go someplace, without fail, somebody there would recognize my name. I'm a visitor to your country. How do you know? Transformers. Really? Yes. Would you sign my autograph? Well, I'll sign mine, but and that is when I first realized that I know I've gone on about this a lot on my little personal soapbox about the spiritual core of the Transformers, which is a very human thing, a very glorious thing, a very positive thing, and I think that is what everybody recognizes, and that is why 30 years on, the Transformers still live. It's not just giant freaking robots fighting, because that movie with Jackman didn't do that well, but there's nothing wrong with a little, bot-on-bot action from time to time. But the spiritual core, the essence, the positivity, the outward-looking aspect of the Transformers, I think, is so very important. That's what you guys grab because you get something positive out of it, and you give it to us. And I cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough for the wonder you give us, which is your caring and your attention. Thank you.
He's running for mayor next year.
And my refrigerator is already going to vote for him.
I had a quick question about throat busting voices and everything. You were talking about the young guys who don't quite understand what kind of damage they can do. I was thinking, you might be one of those guys. That kind of speaks to me. I've been doing voices for a while. And I'm wondering, throat busting, what are the types of things that you're like, I'm kind of going to avoid this? What are the things that you recognize as something that is damaging? When do you know this is going to be something that's something you might not want to get into?
If it hurts your throat, then you're doing it wrong. So you need to kind of try to figure out another way to approach the voice or approach the energy where it doesn't inflict pain upon yourself.
Unless they offer you a lot of money.
Then you want to hurt your voice.
If you see blood, that's not a good indicator.
No, when I was a disc jockey, none of this crap was in my throat at all. And part of it is obviously age. I mean, at 83, you expect the guy to sound a little ragged, but...
When do you expect to get there?
From doing screaming and robots, and I think Paris burning for Disney went in the Hunchback of Notre Dame started it. We had 2 days of screaming because Paris was burning. And the other one that got me was the Gourd-head minister in Beetlejuice. Did you see Beetlejuice? Yeah. Do you take this woman to be your wedded wife? And he said, don't say a D word. And so, and I had to do it over and over. It was a short scene, but I had to do it over and over and over. And I got out of there, and boy, my throat was just raw, and I don't think I ever really recuperated from that. The glorious golden tones are gone.
If you're going to do video games, plural, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Again and again and again and again. We blood throat sessions. It's like, what do you got? Oh, it's just like a little few bits in Walla. How long is the battle? Oh, over half the world. Energy. For 6 bloody hours.
There is a positive side of it, though. I auditioned for the part of a plumber on a radio spot, I'll fix your pipes, lady, you know, something like that. And the girl that cast me, and it said, oh, when I heard your voice, I saw a butt crack. So I went back and looked at all the things I had done recently at that time, and I realized most of them were kind of in that genre. So I made a tape, a commercial demo tape of my butt crack voice, and sent it off. Got a little work.
You know, it is funny because they do say you have to put physicality in it, but I don't think I've ever put the butt crack in it.
Butt crack Jack. Butt crack Jack.
Touched by a butt crack.
That's me, boy. Yeah. Gabby Hayes.
There are funny voices that everybody does. Man or woman, you got, but Gabby Hayes was the guy who acted in No Teeth.
And that's right, boy. Me and my mule was out on the day. And we were yeah.
And so everybody, all the actors do Gabby Hayes, you know,
just get really deep. Your tongue can't touch teeth.
Okay, that is the fun thing about the 80s. I can't say too much about, you know, the current days, but when we were in the 80s, everybody that was in the room knew all the actors from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and they, anytime they said, well, you know, we need a Sidney Greenstreet, everybody knew exactly.
Yes, where that was going to come from.
It's like, you know, and now, you know, I was just saying to Jack back in the back, we were talking about Stan and Ollie. Anybody know who Stan and Ollie are? Very few of you, though. But, yeah, that's Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, Hugh Laurel?
Yes, Hugh Laurel and Andy Hardy.
Andy Hardy just died.
I didn't know a lot of the references when I walked into the voiceover room because it was my first animated series. So a lot of the time I was just like a deer in the headlights in the room with all these references. Like, I don't know who these people are, but they sound marvelous. They sound incredible.
Well, she was younger. She was just a baby.
Voices was a wee thing.
Yeah, but the kid learned quick.
Yeah.
She was the cute one in the room.
Yeah, learn some colorful language. I often think about the outtakes, and if Wally has the outtakes, because Patricia on Jen's, she was pizzazz, she was Jen's nemesis, and so she was completely out of her tree and angry and screaming all the time. Her poor voice, she had to yell a lot. But every time she would screw up a line, she talks about this. She would screw it up, and then all these expletives would come flying out of her mouth. And I was wondering where those kids were.
They're all his retirement fund.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question.
If they were going to make a new G1 cartoon, would you be willing to continue your roles as the G1 characters?
Oh, under no circumstances.
What are you saying? Of course.
We all love to work. You know, we love what we do, and we love to work. And yeah, absolutely.
This time I'd wear pants.
And then if we did it right, we would be back talking to your grandbabies. And if we were yours.
Yeah, I'd do it again. The money was always good. I mean, you know, I understand, you were a phenomenon that nobody expected. We just went in to do it for money. We were actors, we were paid actors, and loved getting the work. And so, I mean, we spent money to send out tapes and promotions and stuff just to get parts to play and make money. That was our goal in life. And you changed everything, because now nobody knew about you. You guys grew up and never gave up. And you're teaching your kids. Or in some cases, I've got people today said, my kids are teaching me. They offer me money.
It's not that he's mercenary.
Well, look, aside from the fact that sometimes you whip your throat out, that's really only part of the time. But where else can you go into a room and there's one of these, and they give you one of these, and you read it, and whatever it says, you read it to their satisfaction, and you leave and they give you money. I mean, you want to feel my hands? There's not a rough part of my hands. Because I don't do anything. I just use that. And I've said I've never had to work since I got out of the Army. I've never, ever had to. I was a disc jockey for 18 years. I went in and played music and cracked jokes and did funny voices for 3 hours a day. Sometimes I had to go 3 hours, no lunch. That's a great occupation. Yeah.
Oh, the inhumanity.
I know. It was always great to get in the crowd. 8 hour a day guys who are complaining about their work, and I'd say, yeah, I had to go 3 hours today, no lunch. And they, kick me out of the room.
The one thing, though, you have to remember is that each and every person in this business has done one thing, and that is to put themselves at risk. They have put themselves financially on the line in order to do this business. So yeah, as he says, feel my hands, there's no calluses, but boy, there's like a portrait of Dorian Gray someplace that is so shriveled up that is me because of my worry and my fretting, with a wife and a child and a house and payments and the digital age and everything else coming on. It's like, holy moly, the world has changed so much, but that's the most consistent thing, I think, on this planet is change. So,
transform and roll out.
Yeah.
In this business, and most of us probably started when we were really young, and there's no sort of working your way up the corporate ladder. It is such a crapshoot. It's serendipity. It's all of those things, and it's kind of just being persistent and hanging in there and licking your wounds and getting right back up and getting out there and going on one more audition. It's not for the faint of heart, but you love it, and then to have this come back is mind blowing and incredibly humbling, and the gratitude to be appreciated for your work when you've worked so hard behind the scenes and your struggle is so private. It's really beautiful, and I just thank you guys.
Yeah, all that behind the scenes stuff is great.
And it's been said before as well, but it's really quite true. Short and simply, without you, we're nothing. Thanks.
Greatly, a round of applause.
Where is the tip jar gone?
Uppity, is that it? Then thank you all very much.
You guys rock. Thank you.